Hello and welcome back to the Stone of Stumbling. My name's Jason. I'm one of the pastors at Candlelight Christian Fellowship, and today we have a special guest with us, Gal Cohen-Solal, about the event surrounding the now infamous October 7th event. And so welcome, Gal. Welcome, Pastor Paul.
Oh, thank you.
Good to have everybody here today.
It's good to be here. Absolutely. Thanks, Jason.
My pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I just got back from Israel myself. I was there for almost a month. I took a group over to do some touring, and then, of course, we had all of our flights delayed. We were the only Americans in Israel, I think. Every one of the sites, I go over and I teach, I take groups of people, and every one of the sites where we visited, there was nobody. One bus, ours. And of course, then when we're in the communities and when we went to visit some kibbutz, when we went to visit the shops, when we went to the old city, the Nora Music Festival site, Nova Music Festival site, we were in Sarot. Is that how you say it? Sarot?
Yeah.
And we saw the police station. So we know what's going on. In fact, our flights were delayed getting out, and I was in Jerusalem on the balcony of our hotel when the Iron Dome was taking out rockets and missiles and drones from Iran. So that was a day in history for sure.
Wow.
But listen, we are excited to have you here because we want the American people to know what's going on, the need that is so great that we should be very aware that we want to bring our people home. Amen? And we want to rescue them. This is a necessity. The support of America is critical to Israel, although we know that Israel is going nowhere. God has made a covenant with Israel, and He is going to protect them. But we want to hear your story. And so tell us about your time here. Tell us what we need to know about what you've been through.
Well, I will. First of all, you just said that you've been in Israel during the Iranian attack.
Yeah.
I want to let you know it wasn't only the Iron Dome. The American army helped us as well.
All right.
To take down Jordan as well. There were about 300 drones and missiles coming towards Israel, and the American army really helped us there. The thing, I'm here in the States because I feel it's very important that people will know what really happened on October 7th in Israel. I really feel that people start to forget the reason that Israel had to go into Gaza. So this is why I'm here, to bring true facts. The thing is that I'm bringing facts.
Good.
And I want to give more light to a side of the world that I feel that sometimes there is a bit of ignorance and darkness.
Yeah. Well, we are so prone to forget everything within 2 weeks. And so what has it been? Over 6 months now since October 7th. We're at day 224? I think it's something like that.
I stopped counting
a
long time ago.
So it's quite easy for people to forget. But when you have been through what you have been through, and when your friends and your people are held captive by the Hamas in the area of Rafah now, it's not easy for you to forget, is it?
No, not at all. I can't. I still live it day by day. For me, you were saying it's 224 days. For me, I'm still on October 7th.
Yeah.
I lost many guys on October 7th, many of my friends.
Sorry.
And there is still, I still know some of the hostages. And in some part, I'm here representing them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Now, you live in a kibbutz just outside of where the Nova Music Festival was attacked.
Yeah, so I will give you a brief of what happened to us, to my family on October 7th. Right before that, the Nova Festival was in Re'im Forest. It's about 2,000 feet or something like that from my kibbutz. On October 7th, about 6:30 a.m., we start to hear lots of sirens and rockets, and our Iron Dome hitting rockets. So we entered our safe room. I just want to explain that a safe room is just another room inside our house with a bit thicker walls and heavy door and window. Pretty much it's supposed to protect you against rockets, if that's it. So at 6:30 a.m. they broke the border. About more than 3,000 terrorists broke the border between us to them. They entered Israel. They used it. At October 7th, we celebrated a very big holiday in Israel, a Jewish holiday, Simchat Torah. And many of our soldiers went home to celebrate with their family. So they knew that and they used it. They entered Israel. They entered all the army bases around, and they entered the kibbutzes. Well, kibbutz, if you are not familiar with this word, kibbutz, it's small socialist community village. There is about between 400-500 people to 1,000 people.
In each kibbutz?
In each kibbutz, yeah. So they entered all the kibbutzes around the Gaza envelope. They knew that there is only civilians. In my kibbutz, we had only 6 armed guys with M16.
Only 6. And how big is your kibbutz? Yours?
About 500 people. It's pretty big. Well, they entered our kibbutz. They knew that there is only civilians. There was not even one soldier or one policeman inside our kibbutz. They entered our kibbutz fully equipped with RPGs, PKs, machine guns, AK-47s. They bring like stretchers and first aid equipment with them. They bring food and water. They planned to stay for a long time inside the kibbutz, only for 1 or 2 hours. So this is how everything started in my kibbutz.
So they planned to stay?
Yeah, they planned to stay. They bring, after the IDF captured them, there were maps of the kibbutz. They had pictures where the head of the security team lived. They knew exactly where to go in the kibbutz. Their main plane, Reim, is exactly in the middle of Gaza envelope. So their plan was to make Reim as their headquarters, to move forward into the big cities of Israel.
So they weren't thinking come across the border, take people and
No.
go away. They were coming in and invading
conquer.
the land of Israel.
Yeah, and they plan to come much further into Israel.
And do they know this must have been spied out, right? So you said that they knew.
they had the
knew
whole
where to
thing
go.
mapped
They
out?
knew who to
100%.
target.
They knew the targets. They knew exactly where to go. After Reim, they bring food and everything with them. It wasn't just like something like spontaneous that they've done. It was planned not 1 month or 2 months. They planned it for years, after years.
Not a random terrorist ragtag attack
No.
at all.
No.
You know, let's pause right there for a minute. I want to ask you a question. From my experience going to Israel for the last 20 plus years now, never in the history of Israel since 1948, to the recognition of Israel as a state, again, which I think is exciting, it's biblical, never was Israel the aggressor. It was always the Palestinian, or it was someone in the Islamic world that was aggressive, and they wanted to drive Israel into the sea.
Yeah.
From the river to the sea. I mean, we've heard that for many years.
Yeah.
So this was not provoked by
Well,
Israel in any way.
We never ever in the whole entire life of the country, we never was the first one to start a war.
Right.
Not even in 48. Everyone tried to invade Israel.
Right.
67 was as well. They blocked all the way for everyone to come into Israel. 73, every time we had to fight back after
Right.
they were the one that provoking, and it was
Right.
like that on October 7th.
I think a lot of
yeah.
Americans need to know that, because the left, I'm going to use that expression here.
Yeah, that's fine.
They would like to make it seem as though Israel is the problem, and that everyone else around the Middle East wants to have peace with Israel, but that's not the case. Israel actually wants to have peace with all of their neighbors.
easy.
And they're willing
we
to
are
dwell
doing
with
it.
all of their neighbors. But because of the political tension, they want to get rid of Israel and wipe Israel off the map.
I have. The thing is that Israel already left. They told us in 2005, Israel left the Gaza envelope.
That's right.
We escaped. They told us, all right, get out of of Gaza and we will have peace.
I remember
The thing is-
Israel taking some of the Israeli citizens out
It
of
was
the Gaza.
hard. It was
a
very hard moment for
Yeah.
us.
Yep.
And you remember that. You were
Yeah,
there.
I was in. It was during my service. I've been there, and it was very hard to know that you need to take out your own people. It
Right.
wasn't easy, but we thought that it will bring peace to the area.
Yeah.
And this is what everyone told us. This is what we believed in.
Yeah.
The thing is that, like, you said that, like, we are the only one that the left. They feel that we are the one that's starting the war. Like, we are the one to blame. So I will give you a very good example. If it's in that case, United States, they're the one to blame for World War II. You know, because, well, they're saying, like, you are the strong side and there is many civilians died. Well, in World War II, there is more German civilians died than American civilians. So are you going to blame America invading to Germany? It's exactly the same.
Right.
You're like, we have nothing to deal with.
Right.
We don't have any other way to do that. It's not that they would like to negotiate about peace.
And even to this day, October 7th is being framed as a response to Israel
Yeah.
being wrong instead
propaganda.
of or a random terrorist attack instead of, as you were highlighting, a calculated, long-planned incursion into Israel by a hostile force.
Yeah, to occupy the land of Israel.
Yeah.
Let's turn those tables right back around and let's point the
it's-
spotlight where it belongs.
It's amazing. I met friends. They been in a war inside Gaza, and they bring some educational books from their school in Gaza, and on their map, Israel is not exist. They educate 6 years old kids that there is no Israel. It's actually from the river to the sea.
Right.
Like, they don't really
don't
like
even recognize it.
when they're talking with us about peace. It's not about getting out of Gaza or Nablus and Judea and Samaria. They really want to take over Tel Aviv and Haifa and
Yeah.
Sea of Galilee.
Yeah. Yeah.
They feel it's all belong to them.
Yeah. Amazing.
From the little children's maps,
Yep.
20 years from now, if we're still here, these children are now grown adults with the belief, the ironclad belief, that Israel doesn't technically exist.
Yeah.
Right. I was on the Temple Mount one year, and I was watching elementary school students being taught to hate Israel on the Temple Mount in Israel. Unbelievable.
So you see, like, until something will not be changed, this is how it's going to be. I'm very sorry about that, but honestly, I'm not teaching my kids about war or anything like that. But I wish it would be the same in the other side.
Yeah.
If people left, we left 2005. All right, now those guys are 20 years old. What they've been taught in books, like they had pictures of Israelis like looking like the devil, and they like gave them something like that.
Yeah,
So
we've
this
seen
is
some
what
of that.
this is what they know about us.
Yeah. So let's go back to your village. What happened on October 7th?
So at about 7:30 a.m., 8 a.m., there was very big war being held out of the kibbutz. Reim sit also on a very important junction, and the Hamas knew that, where the army and the police tried to bring reinforcement into the war. All right, so there was a very big war being held out of the kibbutz. In about 8 a.m., they entered the kibbutz and they start to look for civilians. I told you they came with RPG, anti-tank missile. I can guarantee that there was not even one tank or even something similar to that in my kibbutz. There was like
6 armed guards.
6 armed guards, only with M16. They bring those missiles just to take down houses. And this is what they've done. I can show you later photos of houses they took down by anti-tank missiles, like civilian houses.
Yeah.
So they entered the kibbutz. And actually, the first people that they took were hostages. They kidnapped like dozens of them, like few dozens.
And these are your family. This is your small
People
village.
that I know, yeah.
500 people. You know everyone.
Yeah, you do know everyone. The thing is, with me, the situation, I do know people from there, but with my situation is a bit different because, well, I moved to Reim from another kibbutz. I came from a kibbutz in the eastern part of the Negev. I came to Reim on October 1st. So next time.
Wow.
So next time that you think that you have bad luck in your life, just remember the Israeli guy that came in and spoke with you.
Well, listen, there's
Yes,
we
it's
don't believe
such
in
a bad
luck.
luck.
I'll tell you, there's a
So
providence. God has an intended purpose for you. And he's using you now to speak to Americans and people around the world about the need to support Israel.
Yeah, so
For sure. So they came in, they took hostages.
They took hostages. About in 8:15 on our WhatsApp group of the kibbutz, they wrote a message that Dvir was murdered. Dvir is a guy I know his ex-wife very good. We used to study together. His house was about 300 feet from where I live, and I knew exactly what's going on. Pretty much, they're going from house to house, cleaning the house from civilians, and it was like that. And it was like kind of a routine. You just hear the hand grenade explode, and then you hear some of AK-47 shots. And then there is a break, and then it goes
to the next
another
house.
one.
Yeah.
And I just counted the minutes until they will come and kill me. You are just sitting and waiting for your own death, for you and your family.
Oh my.
You are just waiting for them. And I know it's coming towards me, and I heard it. I've been in Sayed Golani. It's one of the top Israeli units that we have in the army. I can notice the difference between AK-47 shots to M16 shots. And I heard it, and I just waited, and I knew that it's all about now 100% I'm going to die. I just need to know how I'm going to rescue my family's life. And there was like usually in our safe room there is a place for a vent, and it's supposed to be covered by some lid in the other side. And I didn't have this lid, so pretty much they just could come and throw hand grenades into our safe room. And I just waited for this. Eventually I arrived on my house. We heard the bullets start to hitting our walls, and I heard the screaming and shouting in Arabic. So I just waited, and I knew that they can throw a hand grenade from this hole, and I knew that if I will see this hand grenade, I'm gonna jump on it. 100% I will die.
Yeah.
I was sure anyway that I'm going to die. I was okay with that. I was 100% sure that I will jump on this grenade, and that's how I will save my family life. So we just waited. Finally, they tried to enter our house. Just imagine yourself the angel of death trying to enter your house, and the only thing that separates between you and them is just a simple wooden door that you guys can take down by a kick. So my kids start to scream. They were afraid. Imagine yourself, we were afraid. Imagine yourself, you will be afraid as well.
Yeah.
So I have three kids, twins that are 4.5 years old, and another one, little Jonathan, he wasn't even 3 years old. So I told them that we have to be quiet, otherwise we will reveal that there is civilians inside.
Sure.
So they understood, the twins understood, and they kept quiet. But little Jonathan, he was too afraid. So my wife had to put her hands on his mouth like that, and then she started to cry. and you need to understand that we are all next generations for Holocaust survivors. And we have this story about that Jewish woman that had to strangle her son because the Nazis were outside of their house. So she strangled them. So my wife started to cry. She said it's reminder the Holocaust story.
Yeah.
So I went and I had to keep his mouth shut. And every like 10-15 minutes, I took my hands up so he will be able to breathe. It was like that for a few minutes. The terrorists tried to enter our house. It was locked, so they started to shoot on our front door, and then the window next to it. Probably they thought that we will surrender and we will get out because we were too scared. But eventually this is what saved us, and they moved to the next house.
Because they couldn't get in?
Yeah, that's it. They didn't just said, we don't want to waste time. Like the way to the, like I remember to lock the front door. They went to my neighbor house, Ben, and they threw a hand grenade into his living room, just to continue what they're doing. And the hand grenade didn't explode, and they were afraid from their own hand grenade. This is why they didn't enter to my neighbor house. Otherwise, they would have killed his family. So that was a big luck for him as well.
Wow.
So only at 2:30 p.m. after 8 hours, the army, the special forces arrived. There was a big war being held. Finally, like for me, it was a bit of a relief because they still tried to like attack civilians, but most of them just tried to protect themselves against the army and not trying to attack civilians. So there was a big war until 6:30 p.m. Only on 6:30 p.m. the army started to move from house to house, checking what's going on. This is
the Israeli army.
The Israeli army, of course.
So the whole duration of the time, and from when this started until the army began to step in, was 12 hours.
It was much more than that. In
give
our
us
kibbutz,
the beginning
you
and end
need to
again.
understand. They planned to make Reim as their headquarters. They were about to send 250 terrorists into Reim, fighting 6 guys. And I always feel bad that I'm saying that, but instead of entering the kibbutz, it was much more easier for them staying on the road, taking down Nova people that tried to escape the party and people that tried to escape other kibbutzes. It was much more easier for them to stay there. Probably you saw all the burnt car photos.
I was there. I went to the graveyard of the cars.
The graveyard, and you cannot imagine how many cars there were. It was out of our kibbutz. Yeah. Well, I really recommend the people that didn't saw it, just Google it, and you will see it. It was just out of my kibbutz. Wow. So many of them, instead of entering the kibbutz, just start to shoot innocent civilians. It like for them, it was pretty much like shooting ducks in a range.
Yeah.
You know, it was
so
much easier for them.
So how long were you hunkered down until the IDF arrived and began to...
Well, until the army arrived, the IDF arrived at my house, it was 12 hours.
Okay.
But there was still war going on. They moved from a neighborhood to another neighborhood to check all the neighborhoods. Okay, there was like, when they entered my neighborhood, in another neighborhood, there was still war going on.
Yeah.
So it was 6:30 p.m. after 12 hours. Well, our safe room wasn't safe anymore. So at 11 p.m. they moved us to another house where there was a very nice couple that hosted us there. And they keep saying how lucky they were because their daughter was in the Nova Festival, but she had to leave the festival on Friday night because she had to go to study on Saturday. How lucky they were. So we stayed there for the whole night. There was still war out of our house, but I woke up in the morning at 7 a.m. I started to make some fast breakfast for everyone. They were all still in the safe room. Suddenly 2 officers, Army IDF officers arrived, and they asked me if I can bring Shabtai and Milka, the couple, if they can bring them to the sofa, to the living room. and right in front of me, they told those nice couples that their son was murdered on his way to the his base. He's been recruited to the reserves, and they told them
Yeah.
that he was murdered. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be there when parents get this.
No, of course not. So they were killing people. They also were torturing people. And you had mentioned before we came on camera that they were raping some of the women before they killed them.
Yeah.
That had to be the worst thing to experience and to feel helpless.
Yeah, so many of the Nova Festival guys they escaped the Nova Festival, and many of them entered the kibbutz, our kibbutz. As I mentioned before, it was the nearest kibbutz to them. So they entered some of the empty houses that they found. And in one of the apartments, there were three girls tried to hide themselves. Those poor three women got raped, not by one or two or three terrorists, by groups of terrorists. There is the neighbors from our kibbutz that was pretty close to this house. They heard the screaming for hours, and eventually it was silent. So they killed those girls and burned their bodies and burned the apartment.
Yeah.
Usually, while I'm going here in the States doing these lectures, I can show the
but this
facts.
is so hard to hear.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I
But
know.
we need to
and
hear
there
it.
is people need to know that there is evidence. I spoke with the guy that took the pictures of those girls.
Yeah.
It was I don't want to see. I didn't want to see those
No, of course
pictures.
not.
It was just too hard for me.
Having just returned from Israel, one of the last people that I talked to was the mother of one of the IDF soldiers that came home for Passover. I was actually in Israel for Passover. And he reported to his mother that all of the women that are in the hostage situation now are pregnant. And so it's horrible to think about what's going on there. And American people need to understand the difficulties of this, and they need to be able to support Israel getting in to Rafah and putting out Hamas and getting the hostages. This is just unbelievable that people could be protesting in our college campuses and that they are resistant to you protecting your people, and even some Americans that are still hostage.
There is still Americans that
Now
hostages.
you said earlier that there were 3 that they discovered today.
Yeah, today in the morning, the IDF discovered in Rafah 3 hostages that are murdered.
Yeah,
One of
Israeli
them-
hostages.
Israeli hostages. Yeah, one of them was Shani Locke. It was one of the first. She was murdered on October 7th, and her video goes all over. It became very viral. And another 2 hostages that everyone thought that they're still alive. And they found their bodies inside Rafah. Now they're just today in the
Were
morning.
they in a tunnel? Were they in a house? Do you know?
I don't know if usually the IDF are not giving this information
Sure.
just for security, so we will be able to continue and do
makes
his
sense.
work.
Yeah.
So it doesn't tell how he found those bodies.
Yeah. Well, listen, before we run out of time, what do you want to tell us? What do we need to know from you? What do Americans need to know? How can we help?
I want to say 2 things. The first one, I'm here for the reason that people will know what we've been had to face through in October 7, what we've been suffering, the reason why we are there. We're not there just because we are getting bored. It's not like that. I want that people will know what my 3-year-old son had to been seen and everything. So this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here to fight ignorance. The second thing that I would like to tell the people here in the United States, well, there is all those protests here in the campuses and universities and everything, and I think that the people keep asking me how do I feel about that, and what I'm telling them that if they're tearing apart the American flag and they're spitting on it and walk and step on it, I don't think it's the Israeli issue anymore. I think it's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
You know, I feel that it's just a big wake-up call for the Americans as well. And I truly know, in the deep bottom of my heart, I know that the Americans support us. You know, and I do know that this is not the real American people.
Yeah.
Those people.
Well, I can tell you the evangelical Christians in America certainly do support Israel. We look at the Bible very clearly and very accurately, if you may, if you allow me to say it this way, literally, that God has a covenant with the people of Israel. He has a covenant with the land, and that we will stand with Israel because it is God's will that the Christians in America stand with Israel. And so, yeah, there's probably a great number of people that support Israel that don't have any
100%.
theological background.
100%.
But we have always been in support of Israel. I mean, now look, I'm a Christian. I'm a pastor. Jason is a pastor. We believe in Jesus as the Jewish Messiah. And so we're proclaiming the hope of Israel all the time. And we want you to know that. We're praying for you for sure. And we want to support you.
Thanks,
We're so
man.
glad to have you here with us. Jason,
Yes,
what do you
yes.
think?
Means a lot
Gal,
to me.
thank you so much for being here. We need to hear every word of what you said. We need to be tracking. We need to watch and pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Amen.
And so
Amen.
this concludes our current episode of Jerusalem, the Stone of Stumbling. I hope you enjoyed it. More next time. May God bless you.
תודה רבה.